Can you see my screen, Will?
Yes.
Okay, so Wolf, I believe this is your jaw. That's good. You got a tooth missing, by the way.
Where's the privacy, Michael?
The patient privacy.
Yeah, you got
Wow.
some
Okay.
things you have to just keep
I did
quiet.
get consent before the Zoom session, by the way.
Oh,
Didn't you tell me to have a Zoom session with your models?
No, I said, well, we're doing a snore guide, but this is a bit of a surprise.
Don't lie.
So please
Okay.
don't criticize my teeth.
All right. Okay. So we've got it in the center of Blender. We use the model designer to get them in the center, which is very important. Please don't forget that. And of course, in the articulator, once we've got the models made with the bases, it's very similar to a lab procedure, isn't it, Wolf? Hey?
Yeah. You pour your models first in plaster and then put them on the articulator. Some people never articulate, hey, Michael?
Yeah, but in this case, we want to open up your jaw and set it forward.
Yeah, digitally,
So
we always have to, yeah, align it correctly.
we couldn't do that by hand.
No.
Okay? Otherwise, snoring won't stop. Okay, so here, what we're going to do in the articulator module, we've got a mounting plate which we can use. Well, maybe I should just do it. Name the upper model, name the lower model, import your mounting plate, which will hide the lower model. So even though we're moving the top model, the lower model moves with it. Look at it from the right side and look at it from the bottom side. So we want to place this on these ovals, more or less. Okay, once that's done, we can delete the mounting table and we're going to import our condyles. These are animated already. So if we go down to the articulator right at the bottom, we've got these navigation tools. So if we click left or right or protrusive. But in this case, we're not using any of this animation. We want to change the animation. So I'm going to go into the constraints. And here, what we want to do is we want to edit one constraint, which is the protrusive. So I'm going to click on the protrusive animation and click edit. And I'm going to move this forward to where the jaw is. Now you can set this jaw clinically, so we don't need a virtual articulator if you're putting the jaw into the lower jaw into phonetic or so on. Anyway, I've set the jaw forward. You can see the condyles have moved forward. And if you zoom in closely, you can see there's a 0 and a 5. So we've shifted that a little bit forward. Wolfgang, are you there?
Yes.
Wolf, can you just hold on a sec? I'll just hold on.
Yeah, no worries.
Sorry, are you there?
Yeah.
Wolf?
Actually, I was
You
just
didn't hear what
No.
Did you hear what I had to say? I just had to tell someone to be quiet in the background.
Michael, just
sorry,
when you said, yeah, we don't need an articulator, can you just explain that? I mean, you're really talking about a buccal scan here with, and then aligning that with the ICP alignments module.
No, we wouldn't have to align it because
Okay.
if you're taking a buccal scan, the two models are already in the correct occlusion.
That's correct. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So in this case, we've moved that forward and we're going to open this up. Okay. Now, how much do we open this up? That depends on the back teeth. So if I do a cross section Alt B, I want to make very, very sure that I've got enough space. Now you can imagine we're putting a layer of 1.5 millimeter and 1.5 or 2 millimeter, 2 millimeter. So we need space. So if we're putting a 2 millimeter layer, that's 4 millimeters already. So this is not enough, okay, for a double splint. Also, we're going to make a cut going through there. We need otherwise you're going to do this entire work, and then all of a sudden you'll notice, oh, you don't have enough space. You're going to cut through one of the layers, and you're going to have a hole through it or something. So
Having
please,
said that, Michael, you also, besides, of course, taking that that distance and that, the patient has to be in a comfortable setting, you know, a relaxed kind of setting. There's nothing worse than sleeping with your mouth half open and forced apart. You know, you're not relaxing your muscles and TMJ and things like that.
100% correct. But so this is something that I've got to emphasize, that we need enough space for both layers, plus the cut, plus the 0.1 or 0.2 millimeter offset that we're going to be creating. So I've set this to 4 degrees. This is a trial and error depending on how thick. You printed yours out of nylon, isn't it? So we can go way thinner than 2 millimeters.
Yeah, 1.5 even. And of course, the SLS nylon is extremely tough. There's no biting or biting through it. It's amazing. The only thing though is that you don't really get that complete smooth finish with the SLS printing. The particles are laser sintered together, but you do. I mean, you can pumice it, and it's still comfortable by all means. But yeah.
Yeah. So this is important. So just to recap, I've mounted these. Then what I've done is I've gone to Articulator to bring in the condyles. That does it automatically when we bring in the condyles, the setup. Then we've gone straight to the protrusive to go to edit. We've moved this arrow down and we've set the rotation to say 4 degrees. And then we're going to apply the keyframe and set new location for lower and delete animation. Now this is fixed in space. It can't move anywhere. And this is what we want. And this is what I've been saying earlier with the buccal scan. You can do this in the mouth as well. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to then delete the condyles. We don't need them anymore. So just to make things a little bit easier, we don't want to complicate things. Now, Wolf, guess what the next step is? What would we do you think?
Well, in the lab setting, we have to block this thing out because it's got a gap. And if you flow acrylic in there, there's no getting it in the mouth. So blocking out is a big one.
Also, I do save sometimes in between. You don't want Blender to crash. Some computers are probably not as powerful as mine. And if it does crash, you know, when you're smoothing or sculpting, that seems to be the culprit on some of the computers. Just save your work, you know, even though it's automatically saving, you want to make very sure that you don't lose your work. Okay.
A quick question about the clinician giving us, or whoever's doing the CAD work, the bite and that, the protrusive physiological bite. Yes, that's, but you're saving this entire step of the articulation. If you get it in this open bite scenario already, it's a big time saver.
Well, I mean, how long did it take me? Minus all of the chit chat.
All right. Okay. Granted.
Yeah. Okay. But there's nothing better than the jaw, you know. I mean, even a digital articulator, I don't care what program you use, it's not going to be exactly the same in every person. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But if you were just making one bite plate, occlusal plate, then you'd keep the condyles and all of those because you want to do the dynamic occlusal cut towards the end of it. But in this situation, we don't really need it because we're going to make a halfway cut between the two layers. And that, well, Michael will explain as he gets into it.
So now I've renamed the lowers and upper. Don't think just because it's already called upper and lower that it's okay, I don't have to change the name. No, it's not, because in these buttons, there's a whole lot of procedures which make sure that everything is correct. Okay, the mesh is correct, and it takes on the correct location in 3D space and so on. So just follow the menu all the time. So here we're going to create our offset, and this is why I've said this is already 0.2. If you maybe milling, you could set this to way less than 0.2. Depends on your printer. It could be 0.1. I think the last one we did 0.1, didn't we? With the
Yeah,
SLs.
SLS, we went much smaller than 0.2 because it's very quite accurate. But this is one of the variables we have to consider besides blocking out undercuts. If your splint is always, it's just sitting too tight, just change the offset. It's as easy as that. Just make it bigger. You're working on a bigger model.
So this is the first thing we do. If you're working with a rubbery material, you wouldn't need, if you want to rely on undercuts, this is where you stop. You don't have to carry on. But because we're blocking out, we actually have to engage in this menu if you're working with a harder material. So here's survey upper. I'm going to just survey that. You can mark the undercuts. I don't always do that. And then we'll go auto default models, which create 3 models. Now this is my add-on version. Wolf, I haven't told you about this add-on version.
You're full of
Or I may have
surprises.
mentioned.
You always, every time we have a Zoom session, you just come up with something, and luckily you cruise through it. Touch wood.
Yeah, it does take its risks, because if something doesn't work now, I'll have egg on my face.
Well, tell us why you're
You.
making 3 models, because some people go, this program only does one blocker. Why are we making 3 models in one go, Michael?
Okay, first of all, you can see the undercuts are marked here now.
Sweet.
And I thought this, we can still decide on the colors, but because I did it like an hour before the Zoom session, I thought, okay, well.
Yeah, maybe.
So anyway, this allows us now to permanently see the undercuts.
I just want to come back to
we didn't.
the 3 models. So one of them is a passive model, which we use for implant guides. And this one is this is the passive model. And it looks like, when you're making a chrome cobalt in the lab, you've blocked it all out. And this is kind of a pink. So that's used for guides. And the offset is used for just a rubbery material. And the retentive model, we call it, is that one, because that's got retention. And if you go through the menu, you can actually set the retention. You can set the amount of undercuts, all of those things. But Michael just
which we will do in the lower, we'll do in the lower. But just to go into cross section, we can actually see the difference between these. Okay, so here's the original model, the white one. We can see that. And you can see the gray where it's blocked out. This is the passive model. So it's passively all blocked out. And the orange one is retentive. And then the offset one is that one. So all the models are over here, readily accessible for whichever procedure you are making.
But if you've got a computer that is a bit on the slow, you might want to delete some of those models at this stage. So if you don't need the passive, just delete it. Go into the outliner window and just X and delete.
So I'm going to do the same thing over here, offset. Please follow the procedure all the way through for each model. Don't do this for both, and then you'll get confused. So stick to one model from
Michael, I had a
end.
question this week, and that was related to the voxel remesh. You know how you're making this, you made this offset model and you're remeshing it. So the question was, does that affect the final fitting surface of your splint? And
well, if you voxel remeshing at 0.3 or 0.4, yes, it will. But the thing is, 0.2 is sufficiently accurate, and I've double checked it and triple checked it from a digital point of view. If you remesh at 0.1, you can do that, but it's going to be slow. You're going to be waiting. Like paint on layer, it's going to take a long time. Boolean cuts will take a long
Because
time.
essentially 0.1 means that the vertices are spaced 100 microns apart. So if you just go 0.2, you've halved that basically, you know. It's just...
For a splint, it's fine. I mean, in the crown module, it's remeshing at 0.05 or 0.03, you know, a die. But then a die is small, so it doesn't take that long. So what I've done is I've created a passive model here, and I'm going to engage in adjust dynamic undercuts. Now, Wolf, can you elaborate why this is so good? So the offset is minus 0.2. You can set this.
Yeah. So
you know,
yeah,
I'll just apply that.
Yeah. Okay. So now you can manipulate this undercut. You might find that the patient's got some gingivitis or something in some areas, and you want to block out a little bit there, like Michael's doing. So you can really, it's like applying wax in that area, which is really cool. And likewise, you can take away as well and create more undercut. Like on the buccal side of the molar there, on what, you know, you can take it up to a little bit higher and just block it out
It's like
as
wax.
needed.
You just block it out. Or
Mm.
you can create more retention in some areas or less retention. You know, here you've got a bit of a pocket, you can block that out, you know. So there's a lot you can do with that. So once you've done that, we're going to exit that, and then we're going to create the retentive model, and it will give us the opportunity to remesh one more time at 0.2, and we're going to finish this model. So this is going this way around and not taking the auto default model. So we've gone the long way around by painting these models.
Okay, so now you've got your working models. You can carry on with that.
Now we're going to go into the splint, because this is where we're going to make the layers. I'll just save in between. All right, now you need to sort of know how you're going to design your work. And this is the one that we've designed for Wolfgang, yours is a little bit different to other ones. Other ones cap over the top of the front teeth. Maybe you want to elaborate on that while I'm doing the design.
Yeah, so Michael's using the draw line method. You can also paint a layer, but the line is the best in this indication. But yeah, so Michael will just go and leave the anterior section open, which allows more breathing space. And you can imagine if those upper and lower are sort of in occlusion during a night's sleep, or there's any pulling forces. Of course, it could be pulling forces on the upper teeth, and that could affect the incisal edges. One can, you know, if the patient says, "Oh, my teeth are always sore," that could be the incisal tips that are kind of acting as a pivot point for the splint layer. So this is why I personally chose to keep the anterior section open. Also gives you breathing space there. Having said that, we've got to support the anterior teeth, because we don't want the teeth to move. So Michael's going to put a bar in front of it. So we're working.
So what I've done is I've made a layer. So I've trimmed it. So I didn't speak, but I'll show you in the upper. So I've trimmed it, and now I'm making the layer thickness. I'll say 3 millimeters, just depending on, this is always double, by the way. So it will be 1.5 millimeters. So if you put 4 millimeters, it'll be 2 millimeters. Let's maybe keep it 2 millimeters. Okay, except layer, and we're going to remesh this layer. Okay, so that's number one. Actually, let's make the front tubing here before we do anything else. So can you elaborate on this
yeah,
tubing?
So we started the tube on the molar actually, and there's also good reason for that, because getting these splints in and out of the mouth, it's not always that easy. So imagine the patient's trying to get there with the finger and tuck it under a splint which has got the border fairly flush. We decided, hey, let's just make a tube there that gives the patient some kind of a grip to flick it out of the mouth. And of course, the
So
front tube stops any tooth movement.
you may have seen this tube, how I've scaled it. It's quite easy. This tube is made up of all these vertices. I select A to select all of them, then Control A, and I move my mouse and I can make it thicker or thinner. You can make one vertex thicker or thinner, but in this case, we'll make it a little bit thicker. If you don't know what the size, the diameter of this is, go to the items here, and it will tell you the radius is 1.7. So as I'm moving it up, you can see how the radius increases and the diameter. So this is a good indication. If you want to have a tube of a certain thickness, just go in edit mode, go to the item menu over here. Okay, now the trick is we want to make this one object. So the first thing is we're going to voxel remesh it, okay? And that it's quite fine. We don't need it that fine. So even if I set it at 0.2 and apply. Now, if you want to merge two objects into one object, which we need to do, is we need to shift left click, select the other object. You can take as many objects as you like. Then Control J on your keyboard to join,
Or
or
right
find
click.
yourself, or right click. All right, always forget the right click here, join, or find yourself a button here. Okay, let's try the right click. It's the first time I'm using it. Thanks for the tip, Wolfgang.
Jeez.
Okay, so now it's joined, but we're going to voxel remesh it into one unit. You see, it actually joins it. It's absolute magic. So please don't have it too fine. There's no need for this mesh to be that accurate. You're only going to complicate your life and your Boolean cuts and all of that stuff. Absolutely no need. The inside fitting surface is the important thing. You can just have a cube or a sphere or whatever and cut the inside surface.
Because
There's no need to have
the
it be
inside
accurate.
fitting surface will take on the model's mesh. So the geometry of the model, the one that you use for the Boolean operation, that while the outside of the splint is 0. What did you have it to? If your model were 0.1,
Yeah,
it'll take on the fitting surface of 0.1.
correct. Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next layer. So we're going to go draw method again. I've called it target. Make sure that this specific model is called target. Okay, now that I've got them colored, usually it went white. So this is still a trial of mine of the add-on, but I think it's quite neat that we've got the undercuts showing. Then at least we can make an informed decision where we're going to place this layer. Okay, so we're going to draw the next layer. Now, don't be surprised that this one comes up because they are both called a certain name. And you can always go out of the edit mode, hide it. But in this case, it doesn't disturb me at all. So we'll just come through here like that. And across the front teeth like this. So when you're doing this, try and keep to flat surfaces where you can. Don't weave in and out of crevices and, because this is actually cutting the mesh. So Wolf, explain to me why you wanted this close to your molars.
Yeah, because it gives people a gagging effect if it's too too far down. It's if you go to sleep with a device, you got to make sure it's comfortable. Otherwise, the patient will come knocking on your door.
Also, you may present vomiting noises to your wife.
Hey, hey.
That may not be a good idea. Gagging noises.
Hey,
Okay, so
Michael,
here we go.
can you explain the principle of taking the splint all the way down to the gingiva? And often on social media, I see these amazing splints made, but they just cup the tooth. They don't actually go all the way down.
Thank you for mentioning. There's one specific group that does it all the time, and it gives me the shivers. They make splints like that. So they come up on the incisal third or whatever. They dip down to the canine like that, and then they continue like this. To me, sorry, it makes Wolfgang, we've been in the lab business for many, many years, and we hate remakes, don't we?
Yeah, yeah,
Hey,
yeah,
so when a dentist calls us up and say, look, this patient's come back to me, the splint always comes out of the mouth, we cringe, don't we? Because we have to remake it free of charge. So this is then we've become intuitive, and with these Michigan splints, we put a ball attachment over the top here to keep a splint like that in the mouth. Is that correct?
yeah, that's correct. So some teeth just don't have undercuts. Now that you mentioned ball attachment, is there a way to make a indent or a crevice
Yeah,
for the
Wolf.
splint to actually fit in there exactly like a ball clasp?
In
Not
the
that.
model design, you can take the patch up tool and cut a sphere in there and in here. But look, to be honest, I haven't tried it, but it's worthwhile.
Mhm.
It's worthwhile looking into that. Anyway, so here what I'm doing is I've drawn the line and I'm going to click on trim. And then that'll cut the model, and it should be two different colors. If it's not two different colors, go back and look where it hasn't cut, because you can quite easily see it's been separated. So if it's only green or only white, then it hasn't cut. Usually, like, I never have problems, but
And that's usually just reposition the border, the cutting line
because
slightly.
it's cutting out a really non-dense mesh, if you can see this.
Yeah.
Very non-dense. Okay, so we're going to select a face of the mesh we want to keep, and we're going to click on clean, and then it looks like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make our layer, and then put the thickness in it, and then we're going to accept this wireframe is just so we can look through it. It'll just give us an indication of how thick it actually is. Now, but if you look at it in cross section, it's a mesh that is like, wow, you can't use it. Okay. This is why when we accept it as the layer, it will then remesh it and do this. And the fitting surface is cut in the complete in the end. This is the absolutely necessary thing to know.
It's just before you
Okay.
export. So yeah, leave it to the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah. Leave it to the
Even
end.
if you put attachments on, I think you're putting attachments on this one, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's exactly what we're going to do. Okay. So the next step is let's put a tube there. We're going to go back. For you guys that don't know how to collapse the menus, hover over it, control left click, and that will close everything except for the one that you're working with. This little dropper, you drop that on there. We've got that in the guide as well, which actually shrink wraps in Blender terms. It shrink wraps this to the actual surface. Wolfgang, I like the idea of this block out being visible. Don't you?
Yeah, it's
In
good.
the
I'm just not sure
in the
about the colors yet. We might have to have a chat about
okay,
it.
you always want the final say, don't you? Okay. Again, so A to select all, Control A on the keyboard, move your mouse. If you want to see the thickness, I've demonstrated how to show the thickness. This is the transparent button, transparent in and out. So A, Control A to set the thickness. We're going to voxel remesh it. 0.1 is a little bit fine. I'll put it at 0.2 or 3. Accept that. Shift left click, right click, join, voxel remesh it. It's 0.1. Please don't leave it so fine. We don't need it that fine. 0.3, apply. Okay, now we've got two objects like that. At this stage, you can still change things. You can go tab, select a vertex, make sure the magnet tool is off, make sure the proportional editing is on. We've got the buttons here as well. Magnet, proportional editing. If you don't know the difference, the magnet will snap a vertex to a model behind it. You don't want to do that because you're going to snap this onto the back and you're going to destroy the mesh. So leave the magnet off, and the proportional editing tool is very important too, because if I try and move this vertex by grab, I'm going to be doing this. I'm creating spikes like a cactus, and we don't want to do that. So we're going to put the proportional editing on, use the G key, the mouse wheel, and we can shift. We can shift this. So it's like chewing gum. We can shift it anywhere we want to shift it. So this is very important to understand as well. So here we can shift the mesh in there like this a little bit, move the mesh this way a little bit. So there's a lot we can do with this proportional editing. It's a very powerful tool in Blender to use. I don't know if other digital programs have this, but we are very fortunate in Blender to have these proportional editing tools. Don't you think, Wolf?
Yeah, amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Now the thing is, I do want to smooth it down because at this stage it doesn't look that good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look for a smoothing tool. But first of all, I'm going to save my file. And I've got a lot of files that look like that. It's just like random, like piano, chaos on a piano or something. Okay, so what we're going to do is let's smooth this. So I'll find myself a smoothing tool, smooth, and we're going to just give it a quick smooth. It's very important to have clean, nice meshes when you're working. Think of this like a Bunsen burner in the lab. We take this flame and we flame it down. And that's actually quite a good analogy. So exit, it will ask me to remesh it. Okay.
I think there's
It
some
always
people
does it.
that might be newly qualified. They won't know what a Bunsen burner is, Michael.
Because they're just working on digital stuff. Well, yeah, that's true. Well, I don't know what other analogy I can use except for like a flamethrower or something. I don't
So
know.
you're melting it.
Like you're melting it down to make
Keep
it
in
you're
mind that splint is still
polishing.
penetrating into the model. So whatever you do, it doesn't matter. We're just working on the outside surface.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay, now what we need is bite blocks to fill in the gap. And we've got this quite amazing thing here where it says occlusal rims. Now, we're going to be using mostly this one, but before we do that, we're going to name this. So this is my layer, and this is going to be my opposing layer. Very important because one snaps onto the other. Select Shift right click to place a cursor and draw the rim outline. And here what we're doing is, what have I done? I pressed the wrong button, sorry. Here, draw line, G. The G and the H are very close. Have you noticed, Wolf?
Yeah.
Sometimes I click H by mistake and it hides my vertex and I can't find it. And I click over and over again and, it doesn't want to behave the way I want it to
Maybe
do,
you need a gaming keyboard, Michael.
I was thinking maybe if we can hook a, like a gaming console to Blender. What do you think? And we can have all the dentists and technicians play Blender at home.
Well, with a point system.
You
Okay.
know,
No, I don't
like a
know.
point,
I think
like a
my
point
teenager
system.
will think you're talking nonsense.
Okay, so what we're going
There's
to do is
better games out there. Yeah, in the
we
metaverse.
we're going to connect line with opposing layer, opposing layer, opposing layer. We've named that opposing layer. If you click this and it doesn't work, you know why, because there is no opposing layer. Okay, opposing layer, it snaps it like this. And then what we're going to do is make dual rim, which makes a rim like that. And then from there, we're going to go straight to the other one, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. E to extrude all the way, like that, extrude, come across like that, like that. Now, I'm not going all the way here because it needs to snap onto that. We don't want this yellow line to all of a sudden snap onto the bar or snap somewhere else where we don't want it to. So try and pre-plan and think this is like a mirror image almost, and it needs to snap to the other side. So here, connect line with opposing layer like that, and then make dual rim. Now we've got two rims on either side, and we're going to unify dual to both layers, and that should then unify the two together. It's meshed a little bit to, maybe I can change that at 0.5, it's a bit coarse. I'll just change it to 0.4 or 0.3, and then we're going to finish this layer. And of course, if you wanted to smooth that, you can still smooth it, because remember, this layer has been sort of fused with the other side, and it could be a good idea just to give it a quick, what this actually does, this sculpting tool, if you look on the left hand side, it's on simplify. So it looks like we're smoothing, but inside the mesh, it's like ironing out the creases. You take an iron and you're ironing your nice white shirt, you want to go out on a date or something and it's got creases. We're going to iron out our green split.
Yes, you talk nonsense. When last did you iron a shirt, Michael?
I don't have a white shirt. Anyway, all good.
We live on the
Excellent.
Gold Coast. We don't have culture here.
Yeah, we don't need long sleeve shirts. We
Just
only need
shorts and
vests.
t-shirts.
Exactly. Okay, so I'll just save this because I don't want things to crash, because it's not a good idea. Usually I don't save that often. It's just because I'm under such pressure tonight.
It's because you're bringing in all these colors and you didn't even tell me about it.
I think it looks funky, to be honest.
Yeah, it's all right.
Okay. Let us split these. We need a tool that can split it, and that tool can't be a straight tool because your anatomy of the teeth are all over the place. So we're gonna select that, and we're gonna go to the occlusal cutter. Select model for plane, which is the lower one. Usually we're doing the lower one. And this one is very good for using for implant bone reduction. And a lot of our users use the guide module, and then they jump over to this one here, the occlusal plane cutter, to cut a wedge out of the bone. And this works absolute wonders for that, because it's a tool which we can manipulate very, very well. And I'll demonstrate how that actually works. So we're going to click on that. Everything else disappears so that we can focus on what we are doing. Select Shift right click to place the cursor and draw a line along occlusal plane. If it was bone, we draw it along the bone, the highest tips or whatever of the bone. Okay, so here what I'm doing is E, left click, extrude on sort of the highest tips, like that, all the way. Once I reach the end, if you get lost, look at the tooltips. They're there for 100 seconds. So 100 seconds is, you know, quite a long time. How many minutes is that, Wolf? Your mathematical
Yeah, I think I can make a
brain.
cup of coffee in that time. I've got one of those
Okay.
machines, so it's really quick. And I
Yeah.
can come back and they might still be there.
Wouldn't it be funny if it disappeared now? Okay. Make occlusive plane, and I forget.
Yeah.
Make occlusive plane. This will extrude it outwards for good reason, that we can left click and place these on the cusp tips. Now you can see the magnet tool is on. This is what the magnet tool does. It magnetizes it. It's absolutely amazing. I don't know if other dental programs does Exocad 3Shape have this type of stuff? I don't know.
Don't know.
You know, so this gives us an amazing ability to do things, which is so incredible. Okay, now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make a plane that goes along like that. So once I've done that, we're going to make a tool, and this tool extrudes outwards, and it's quite funky because in edit mode it looks like this. It's got all these vertices, and I've worked so hard on this tool. It's been very, very difficult to create this tool. But anyway, I think I got it to where I want it to be. Now, if I hide this one, H to hide, I can then see that my
Well, it
my
follows the
move widget
natural
is gone.
curvature of the teeth.
Well, yeah, that's right, Wolf. So if I go here, Control B, let's have a
And
look and see
this is
how
why
that
it's
follows.
yeah,
Here,
the snore guard is really comfortable because you can actually grind against it and it follows that same pattern.
yeah, so, you know, that's very important. And like here, you can see that like a divot. It's a bit hard to see. It's like divots up here, and it divots down there. It follows the contour of the upper teeth. But it's even better because if you're close, you can still manipulate this mesh. All you need to do is go select it and GZ and move this up or down. This is why we use it for a bone cutter, because you can manipulate this so very, very nicely. Okay, so let us cut it. Alt H, we're going to, we already know where it is. We're going to cut layer. Now, of course, this has to be called layer. If it's not called layer, it's not going to cut it. So, you know, if you click that and it doesn't cut, you'll know. But anyway, so cut layer. Okay, so then that'll turn blue, and for good reason, because we can use this for an orthodontic, you know, for orthodontics to hold brackets. So if you want to view other videos, go here in the videos. There's a video there, how we use this cutter to hold orthodontic brackets, which is absolutely amazing how that works. X delete, okay? So we've got our cut. This cut is 0.3. It looks big. In reality, 0.3 is like your fingernail or something. You know, it's actually very thin. I'm going to take this and I'm going to briefly smooth this out. Okay, so to hide the inverse, select Control I and hide. Okay, I use it all the time. Control I and H. Smooth it. And here we just briefly going to go across and smooth this.
Can you show
down
how
a
to
little bit.
set the tool for smoothing here? Just by right clicking?
Yeah, I'll just save this what I've got. Okay. So right click, if you want to smooth it finer, put the auto smooth to 0.1 or something. It's very fine. It takes quite long to smooth down, but you get quite a nice result. And to smooth it even finer, you can go to the Dino Topo and put this is on 2. If you put it on 6, it'll be even finer. Okay, so you can experiment there. What's happened here?
Not sure. I can see your screen.
Are you there?
Yeah.
I don't know. It flipped off for some reason. I don't know why that was.
I have that on
Anyway,
my Mac. If I push not Alt H but Command H, then it's gone, and then I have to bring it back.
I haven't had that. It's just really weird. Maybe because my memory is almost finished on my C drive. That could be an explanation. Anyway, I'm going to select that Control I and H, take that one as well, and we're going to just give this one a quick smooth as well. So we'll just do this. Okay. So it's a bit, if I do this again, I would probably do it way finer than what I'm doing now. But because we've got time restraints and so on, I'll just smooth it like that and exit. Okay, so the next step, what we want to do is we want to put these buttons on there, the other way around. Okay, I'm going to import a few attachments here. Okay, now there's a lot of different attachments on the market. We've designed our own specifically for Wolf's case. Have you got a picture of these, Wolf?
I have to just search it, but it's an
I'll have a
orthodontic
look on
power
my,
chain. It's called power
I'm going
chain.
to have a quick look on my computer as well. I think I know where it's hiding. Dual splints. Here. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, that's the one. It's a elastomeric power chain, which is used in orthodontics. It's very strong, and those little loops is of great benefit because if you want to reset the jaw in a different position, you just change the loop. You just, instead of 3 difference, you put 4 difference or 2 difference in between. And they're super strong.
You
It
said
also,
instead of having
yeah,
rigid ones, you
yeah,
can, when you sleep, your jaw may drop to the left-hand side or right-hand
yeah.
side when
This
you're
must
lying on
be
the side.
horrible, awful to be restrained in a device where you can't, there's no movement whatsoever. A bit of movement is, for me at least, talking anecdotally, of course. There was
Yeah,
a
yeah.
question, Michael, if a flat plane, occlusal plane cut would be not, just beneficial or for protrusive, would be better
Yes,
for protrusive, a flat plane.
yes, you can make a flat plane. I don't know if I've got this saved. I'll just go back a step.
But
Maybe
you
I've
could
got it
also use
saved.
the
Yeah,
Monson
I have.
cable that we've got, Michael.
Yeah, no, I've got it saved. I'll just briefly go through and show how it works. So here, select model for plane. You're going to make this thing, draw it along, G key, E key, left click, click E, left. And so we go on the highest tips here like that. And then we're going to make our occlusal plane. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go straight over here, make tool, okay? Now, this tool is not quite straight because we've gone according to the plane. Tab A on the keyboard to select all, okay? S for scale, Z, 0, okay? Tab out. Now we've got a perfectly straight plane. It's good that you've asked because some users may want to do this. So now we've got a flat plane like that. Provided you've got enough space, occlusally, intercuspation, you've got it flat like that. And we're going to cut it now. So here, cut layer. And we're going to take this X and delete it. You see?
Yeah.
It's as easy as that. It's very, 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 very easy.
Here's a
Okay.
question. Can you take the Monson table and cut with that?
Well, let's try and open the file again.
It's
Any
just
more coming?
it's something that occurred to
Is
me.
there any
It's
more
like,
coming?
I'm trying to ambush you, Michael.
Articulator. Articulator. Let's import the Monson and Spee. I've never done this, by the way. Okay, here we go. Okay, let's have a look. Hide. We have to make sure. Hey, it sort of fits all right, doesn't it?
Well, it is a natural phenomena. This kind of studies say, the curvature works this way.
Okay, so, we can bring it forward and back, which will, okay, well, there you go. But now it's not called what we need it to be called. I don't know what my tool is called.
Do you have to just do it external from Blender?
Look, you know
do the
what I
cut?
would do is I would probably go to edit. I'd go shift left click to select that one, bool tool, and then difference. Okay, difference here. And then that one should disappear and we've got our cut. Yeah.
With the curve
Now,
of
of course, we need
Monson.
to, now we've got to separate it. Okay. Now you can separate that with any of these other tools. There's heaps and heaps of these separate tools around. I wonder if I can find one.
I'll try the model designer.
Yeah, separate. And we've separated that. And that's actually quite clever. Control I, hide. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's according to your Monson and Spee.
Yes.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay, so where were we now? Okay, so we
there's a
brought in the
question,
attachment.
Ivan, if we can make a button like that for the flat cut.
In the splint module, yeah, maybe. No, but
maybe all three, flat cut and a Monson cut.
yeah, maybe. I think, yeah, it could be a good idea. Okay, I'm not going to go through the smoothing again. I'm going to, because I don't know how many more
Okay,
of these you're going to have
whack the
coming.
attachments in. I'll stop asking you questions.
Attachments. Okay. Now these attachments, they're all in four, and we're going to place these in edit mode. Okay. So we can move things in edit mode, and for good reason, and I'll show how this works. So you're going to go Tab, okay, and Alt A, select this one, Shift left click, select, and then Control L on your keyboard to link them. Notice none of those are linked. I'll look at it perpendicular, R to rotate, G to grab. And I'm going to be placing these where I want them to be, okay? Like that. Just say like that. Okay, this is up to you. Here, take this one, Shift left click, Control L. Control L links all of the vertices together. Look at it from the perpendicular side, R to rotate. If you don't want to rotate it along that axis, you can always change this up top here to active element. That'll then, oh no, not the active element. No, I think median point. You see, then it rotates in the middle of those two, which will probably make it easier to rotate. Now, get them more or less the way you want them to be, and then individualize. So Control L, look at it. You can go R, on the keyboard. Notice my proportional editing is on. You don't need it on because we've linked them all together. If you've got proportional editing on, you may move the other attachment depending on how big your circle is. Control L, look at it, move it out. I always look at it from perpendicular. So you see how I manipulate this, my view, because it rotates according to my view. Here, Control L. So in order to bring that out, I move it to this side and use the G key, you see? And then, of course, I want to move it this way or that way to rotate it. So it's always perpendicular, okay? So just say I'm finished with that, okay? The next step is we need to unify these to our individual splints. But at the moment I can't because they are all linked up, okay, into one object. So again, I can split them by going to the model designer or looking for a separate button. The separate buttons, they all do the same thing when you can find one. There's not that many in the actual splint one. Yeah, here, there's a separate button here. For you guys that want to know how the separate button works, it works like this: Tab, A, P, by loose parts, separate by loose parts, and that separates them. So that's the shortcut of that. So you take them, Tab, in edit mode, A, and then P, and then separate loose parts. But you don't need to know that because this is why we've got Blenderfordental menus. Hey, Wolf.
That's right. Can you just explain to everybody the reason why those attachments are the way they are, designed like that with the upper ledge?
Oh, Wolf, you just explain that. Maybe this was your idea.
Yeah, so we thought, okay, if you're going to 3D print a button, you really don't want to have to put a support on it. So to eliminate the support, and now this splint we would be printing upside down. So the platform would be facing the inner surface of, yeah, exactly like that. So the print will, the layers will go upwards this way, and we don't have to, we want to avoid putting a support channel on the actual head of this this one here. But of course, with nylon printing, it doesn't matter. You don't need supports for that.
That's correct. If that wasn't there, you'd have to put a support here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to think about all these little things, eh?
And the elastic loop will go over that and hold it tight anyway. So it doesn't matter if there's a little ledge there.
Yeah. So again, please do not cut the fitting surface until the very, very, very end, okay? Because we need to unify these to our layer. Take this one.
Yeah.
Shift left click that one. Shift left click the layer last. Go to edit. Go to Bull Tools. Click on Union. That's unified it. Take this one. Shift left click. Shift left click the splint layer last. Click Union. Okay. So this has actually made it into one object because if I look inside of it, it actually, the mesh structure is one object. You can see, otherwise it would have been extruded inwards. It's very, very important to unify them because we are cutting out the inside surface, the fitting surface. And that is the last procedure where we are at the moment. Go back to the splint, go into your cutting tools here. Now, there's two ways of doing it. You can use this one, select object being cut, and then use the dropper. You know, you can go like this and then use the dropper and then drop it onto this object. That's one way of doing it and apply. Okay. So just to check that everything is cut, H, and we've got a nice cut. That's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it, which is more automatic when you're doing one splint layer, because the names are the same, but because we've made two, we've got layer 001 and target 001, and so it goes. So the other way is you name them. So this one would be our layer, name layer, and that one would be our target model, which is our fitting model. Okay. In some respects, this way is better because it takes longer, the button, because it corrects any, it makes it a non-manifold. If there's any manifold intersecting edges or, you know, in the model, then it corrects the model.
So it cleans the mesh.
It cleans it up. And then we're going to cut fitting surface, which is layer minus target model, which makes our fitting surface. Okay, so just check. So we've got nice, clean surface. Here we can see the block out, the way it's been blocked out with a little bit of a bulge there in the edentulous area. And yeah, and that sort of completes it.
And now just export.
Yeah, so take this one, file, export to STL. Please don't forget, no, that's import. File, export, STL. Please don't forget the selection only button. Otherwise, you're going to take it, you're going to put it on your little, what do you call those little things you put in?
Cheetah box?
Those, no, just the USB memory device. And then you're going to go to your printer, and all of a sudden you've got the entire Blender scene with skull and head and face on your printer, and it crashes.
Yeah, so just that's very important, can't be overlooked.
Selection only, name it, export, and then do the same for the other one, and then print them or whatever you want to do with them.
Awesome, Michael, well done.